specialize in non-gene regions of the genome. You're digging into this to develop more resource-efficient crops. Can you tell us exactly what that means and why that is beneficial?
Yeah, so if you think about a genome of our modern crop species, it's really less than 5% of that genome that is actually genes. So the rest of it are called intergenic regions. Some of these are close to genes, and these are what govern where and when genes are expressed, what turns them on and off. This is important not just for differentiating humans from chimpanzees, for instance, or even humans from worms. It's all about these regulatory regions, these intergenic spaces, but it's also what differentiates, a low-performing from a high-performing crop. And that means both that as breeders and as genome editors, we need to spend a lot more time focusing our efforts there and improving those parts of the genome.
It seems counterintuitive to have a non-gene region of the genome. Isn't that an oxymoron?
Yeah, so this is this ongoing debate in genetics. What is truly a gene? Is it only the section that encodes a protein, or does it include also the regulatory functions, the on-off switches, the up-down knobs on the mixing board of life? And some people argue, well, these regulatory regions are also part of the gene. And those regulatory regions are what determine where and when these genes are expressed. So as we call them, spatiotemporal coordinates of expression.
Now, you also specialize in robotic systems. That's something that you use in your work. How is that really taking what you do to the next level?
So this is something that I worked on a lot in grad school, was developing robotic tools to really scale up the lab work that needs to be done. So much of plant breeding and genome editing now is dependent on the kind of data and the volumes of data that we can generate. So to do the previously very manually intensive tasks of molecular biology that are required to make this data, I spent time with automating these on liquid handling robots. So these are robots that can pipette very precisely and at very large scale, very quickly, to accomplish all these tasks. So I could spend more time analyzing the data behind the computer or in the field. So that's one place that robotics has been big. Another place that robotics is revolutionizing the field, this is done by some of my colleagues, is in acquiring data from the field. So this can be remote sensing, for instance, with unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, or rovers going through the field, or other robotic devices that we have to capture images and then to turn those into the kind of data that we need to make decisions as plant breeders and genome editors.
Now, you shifted from hands-on lab work to using big data in your work. What was that eureka moment that you had where you knew you had to change from one to the other?
The shift that I made from doing more hands-on lab work to more computational work with big data, this is really born out of, I think, some learning at the beginning of grad school and shortly before that. The scale of variation that exists in a species already just from nature is beyond anything that a human could deal with in the lab, one mutation at a time. As the saying used to be, one gene, one enzyme, one graduate student. That's just not a scalable model when a crop genome has tens of thousands of genes to work with. We're not going to get to understanding the genome fully if we go one gene, one enzyme, one grad student. And instead now through computational methods and big data, we can maybe have one gene or we can have 100 genes, 100 enzymes per grad student. So that's the kind of reason that I made this shift.
Now, you've had a lot of really diverse experiences in your career. You've worked on vitamin-rich corn in Mexico. What's been the favorite part of everything you've worked on and why?
Yeah, I think it may not be any specific thing, but overall this notion that plant breeding is this integrative discipline that combines so many other fields. I mean, it includes robotics, it includes molecular biology, it includes chemistry, it includes fieldwork, it includes agronomy, it includes weed science, all of these different domains, and that diversity of domains together that makes plant breeding and agriculture so unique. That's what's been the big realization for me, and the thought that you cannot get bored in the field of plant genetics and plant breeding because there are just so many different fields that you have to integrate to be effective at this. So I think that was the big realization for me, and that's why I decided to go into plant genetics and plant breeding.
Thank you so much, Karl.
Yeah, thank you very much.